Thank you guys. Thank you very much. And Creative Mornings. Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm honored to be part of this global phenomenon here. This is fantastic. I want to. There's a lot of, or there has been one Danish word that has spread worldwide, and that is, as you all know, hygge. I want to make a case for another Danish word that I think should also be spread, and that word is utidig. Utidig. Utidig means something like being untimely, being wacky, being inappropriate, and maybe unsuitable. In Danish, in common Danish, being utidig is actually not a very good thing. It's something that you're asked not to be. When a child starts crying in the middle of a public space and is otherwise quiet, that is an utidig child. If you say something that is sort of off the agenda, that can be utidig. Where I grew up, which is on Funen, the island in between Zealand and Copenhagen, when you were utidig, that was actually something positive. You got, your friends would say, "Oh, I like that. Ja, det skal godt vi utidig. Lad os være mere af det." It would be, it was a fun thing. It was something that loosened up the atmosphere. And what you do when you're wacky, when you're being utidig, is you kind of you open up. You show parts of yourselves or of yourself that you normally wouldn't show, and you are in a sense inappropriate. I tried to check out on Google Images what does utidig actually look like, and this is the first thing that came up when I searched. This is a couple of years, so the same search will not come up. But this is what came up, and this pretty much this shows exactly. This is actually from a Japanese TV show I later found out, and this is exactly what utidig is all about. These guys look pretty silly. They look pretty. They should be pretty self-conscious and covering themselves. They're not. Instead, they're actually feeling pretty gung ho about things. Look at the expression in their eyes. They're pretty. They're onward. They're happy about things, and I think this way of acting is actually really interesting. So, if you would, I'd like to invite you guys to create sort of an untimely or an utidig atmosphere in this room. What I'd like you guys, if you're willing to do this, I'd like you guys to turn to the person next to you and say a good morning. Don't do it yet, please, but just because I want it to be an utidig way of saying hello. So if you do this and then turn to the person next to you and say good morning. And please, if you do that now.
Good morning.
You guys look amazing while doing that. And you probably feel a little silly, a little stupid while doing so. And that's kind of what you're going for when you're being utidig. Is you're opening up and you're taking down your boundaries. So you're just being yourself, and with everything that goes with that. Now, I think I can talk about most of the people that would come to a Creative Mornings. We are all looking for unconventional ideas, and we're trying to find connections. We're trying to see how can we find this new insight, this new angle, this new unconventional project or process that we're looking for. Well, I pretty firmly believe that if we're looking for that, and these are just a couple of examples. This is from Lindau in Germany. They had a Phylometer, a smiley tower, which was actually connected to cameras in the city, and then the cameras would gauge, well, what's the facial expression on people in the city, and if they were smiling, this would then smile more. If people were looking sort of sour or a little maybe down, maybe because the weather is sort of what it's like today, then the smiley would be down. This was a pretty cool idea to sort of express, well, what's the happiness level of the city? It's an unconventional idea. I love it. If we're to come up with ideas like this, we need something else in our own way of thinking. Another unconventional idea is Scott Amron, who noticed these wash labels. You guys probably all know them on these fruit stickers that stick on the apple or on the pear or whatever you buy, and then when you take it off, then there's still the stickiness left there. He made this wash label so it was actually so that when you pour water on it, it would actually act as a soap, which would then rinse you could use it to then rinse your apple, and it would dissolve. So the wash label would just dissolve when you pour water on it, and then you rinse off the pesticides and the bacteria, etc., that could be on the apple. So I think an amazing idea, an unconventional idea. Well, it's my firm belief, if we're to come up with these unconventional ideas, we need utidig behavior. We need untimely behavior, because unconventionality, in a sense, is untimeliness or utidighed. But it's just out here in the project. But to get there, we need to be untimely in our own behavior. What untimeliness, utidighed, what it will unleash is it'll unleash curiosity. So when we walk by, I was walking by the lake the other day, and here I saw these shoes here, and there were other shoes there, other shoes there, other shoes there. And just when you start imagining what the hell is going on here, why are these things? Obviously, these were probably people that were out in a boat, rowing in a boat. But the curiosity, looking into what's actually going on in this situation. Utidighed will also unleash playfulness. Like this 88-year-old lady showed when I was in New York with my family, and we were waiting for the subway, and we struck up a conversation with this woman. She was so nice, so I just said, I'd love to take a picture just to have a memento of this moment. Could you just step next to my daughter Astrid? And she did, and when I was about to snap the photo, she did this. That's what I want to be like when I'm 88 years old too. Also, what utidighed will unleash is sort of a why not attitude, an attitude where you kind of, I know I'm going to look stupid, I know I'm going to look silly, but you know what? That's all right. I'm okay with that, because I'm among people who will allow me to be utidig because they're utidig back at me, and therefore it'll be okay. So I think I find immense joy, and I thrive in situations and in groups where I'm allowed to be utidig. It's a very important concept or atmosphere for me. Oscillation is the next thing I want to talk about. I am the son of an American father and a Danish mother. When I was 6 years old, we moved from Los Angeles in California to Haarby on Funen, which is the place where we like to be utidig, I guess you could say. I've grown up in a household where we've spoken English, then Danish, then English, then Danish across the kitchen table. Quite normal in bilingual or dual language families, so nothing extraordinary about that. But this has imbued in me a sense of constant oscillation between the American Lars and the Danish Lars, and the English-speaking Lars and the Danish-speaking Lars. And this oscillation, I think, has been a pretty integral part of my personality and of my experiences. And I've noticed this throughout the work that I've done, or throughout my steps forward in my work. I've oscillated. And I've oscillated between theory and between practice. I actually started out, I went to the university, I studied film studies at the university. I kind of wanted to make films, but I didn't really dare to do it. So I was relatively good at academia, so I thought, well, why don't I do that? So, and this is sort of been a recurring theme for me. I want to go out and do the creative work, but I don't really dare do it. So I stick maybe to the theoretical part. And then this was my thesis, and it was actually because I didn't really dare go out and write scripts, which is what I wanted to do. I thought, well, why don't I go out and study the people who write scripts? And so I did that. Unfortunately, I had my thesis advisor said, forget about writing this thesis for the institute, for the theorists. Write this thesis for the practitioners out there in the field. And that was great advice. And with that, I actually want to we've got to remember the people who push us in the right directions and who help us creatively, because, oh my God, they mean so much in order for us to go in the right directions. And Frank Henriksen at the Film Institute, he definitely did that for me. So I was out, I was out trying to make practice and theory go hand in hand, and so oscillating between practice and theory. And I followed 7 different film projects that were in development, and I sat in on the meetings between screenwriters, directors, and producers just to hear what's going on in the script development process in these meetings. And it was so amazing. It was so interesting to be allowed to be in that creative room and see what's actually happening. One thing that it's called bandespil, and bandespil is what it means is when I was a kid we used to go down and play ball and we'd kick the ball against the wall, and that was essentially to kick up against the wall. That was to use the wall as a bande, as a wall that you can kick it up against. And what I found is the creative process is one process where you kick the ball, you kick the idea up against a whole bunch of different walls that you'd kind of try to fit your idea. You kind of try your idea out by kicking it up against different walls. I won't go delve into this, but just as I was actually composing this talk, it was really interesting. I actually like to look at, well, what kind of walls is it that I use in my everyday life to kick up against in order to be creative. I've oscillated. I've moved back and forth throughout my career from utter lowbrow things that I've worked with. This was actually the first major project that I worked on. It was called Polly for Sneo. Sneo is a city, a little city which is 7 kilometers away from Hobby, where I grew up, and that's why I was hired for the project. And it was about a guy who doesn't know how to use his mobile phone, and therefore he doesn't have very much success with women. And once he gains a little more knowledge of how to use the mobile phone, he gains more success among his friends and among women as well. It's so lowbrow you wouldn't believe it. So if you haven't seen it, don't go see it, because it's absolutely terrible. It created quite the stir, but this was one project that I was very fortunate to work on. We had a whole lot of fun, and we were extremely utidig while we were working on this, and obviously in cahoots with wonderful people at the advertising agency. So I've gone from that and then back to theory, where I worked on, well, how is it creative ideas are actually culled out? How can we be better at getting the creative ideas out? And I did this book along with a good friend and colleague. So moving way over into a more theoretical, or if you will, slightly more highbrow realm. And then I wrote this book, which was sort of a combination of being practical and being theoretical, and then also being personal, because this is where I actually allowed myself. This is actually the first project I wrote on my own, and I do apologize. The title, it's effing flink. When you say the F word in Danish, it's not quite as coarse as it is when you say it in English. And along with this, I also a friend of mine said you should start up a Facebook page so that people can share with each other when they've experienced friendliness, when they've experienced more than they had expected from a fellow human being. And this just grew phenomenally. In 2012, it was actually the fastest growing Facebook page in Denmark. And what this project has been about is it's been a project where I've tried to latch on to the idea that we're the happiest people on earth. We're actually not anymore, but we are almost the happiest people on earth. And I think that we should use that a lot more than we are. So what I've tried to do with it is I've tried to say, well, we're the happiest people on earth. Shouldn't we use this surplus that we have in order to not only become the happiest, but also the friendliest people on earth? And of course, I don't think we're there yet at all. I think we have quite a ways to go. But this project has, in a sense, combined, I guess you could say, wanting to do something quite serious, or striving towards a big goal, but also having a lot of fun on the way and while doing it. And it actually turns out that this has quite an effect on the way we are when we're friendly. Last year we did the Danish friendliness experiment. We tasked 1,000 Danes, actually 981 Danes, with being friendly for a whole week. So just doing one friendly deed more than they'd usually do a day for a whole week. And when we had sociologists helped us out so that we could have a treatment group and we could have a control group. So about half of them were in the treatment group, trying to do this one friendly deed a day more than they'd usually do. And the other control group, we said to them, just act as you normally would. I mean, don't be assholes unless you're normally assholes, but then fine, then do that. And then and we gave them a battery of questions. on the Sunday before the experiment started, and then a battery of questions on the following Sunday, just to gauge, well, what happens when we decide to be a little friendlier than we normally are. And the results are actually astounding. What we found is that the treatment group reported that they were 38% less angry than the control group. So just in 1 week, their anger and irritation levels dropped by more than a third. They had 29% less trouble getting out of bed in the morning. So they'd probably, you guys must be pretty friendly because you got up this morning and could actually make it here. But I mean, there's a lot more energy, obviously. They reported a 22% increase in feeling creative. So just by being a little friendlier, you actually spike your creativity by more than 1/5. Quite amazing. And then after a week, the treatment group laughed 16% more than the control group. So, and these are just a couple of the examples, but there's actually pretty remarkable benefits from being flink. So, what I wanted, we did this. We did the utidig before. And then I don't know if I made the point very well, but I've had a constant oscillation between theory, between practice, between being very lowbrow and then being way more serious and actually wanting something and being very earnest. And so this constant oscillation between I guess you could say things that are opposing. This has been, to me, very creatively stimulating. So the oscillation going back and forth, you know, it's kind of like this that I've moved, and that gives some kind of momentum in moving forward. A wise man said something like this: "Where your great joy and the world's great need intersect will indicate the direction of your calling." And I think there's something really profound about that. You've got to find something that that makes you really happy. And being utidig makes me really happy. Being friendly and meeting people who are friendly back and maybe even effing friendly, so they're really friendly. And so that we're in a sense pushing each other forward. That makes me really happy. So can I do something with these two elements, and can I somehow, in earnestness, try to get more of this? I think that has been my great joy. That's been the utidig and the friendliness, and the world's great need. Well, I kind of think we need this. I think we need each other way more than we have in a long time, and I think we're kind of we're moving apart in the world. So in all earnestness, I think there's a need for us to be friendlier and do more with each other and be more utidig with each other and create spaces where we can be so. So I think I've kind of found something where my great joy and a need in the world intersect. And so in a sense you could say I've found my home plate, my creative home plate. So the place where I feel at home and where I'm at ease batting from. And this is actually something that my son wrote in a couple of years ago. They had an assignment in school. What do your parents work with? Write about your mom and your dad's job. And so Gustav, my son, again in 2nd grade, he wrote, "My mom is a psychologist. My dad is effing flink or effing friendly," because that's the name of the movement. And well, that's it. I mean, when you start becoming your project, there's something magical that happens in that. I've also got to say, it's also it's not like you feel like, okay, this is it. I'm creatively in balance and everything's in tune. Not at all. I'm totally in distress and in stress every single day because I'm trying to figure out how is it that this next project that I'm working on is going to be, and what is the next project going to be. It's not that I'm creatively at ease in any way, and I think that's just an element of creativity, is this uneasiness that we all are in and we all will be in, and I think you just kind of have to accept that. Even when you found that when you sense that you've found the right spot for yourself and you have an identity as this is what I am, you're still going to be scared. You're still going to be at a loss in working at things, and I am. I can certainly say that I'm at a total loss. So, if you will, the environments that I've found that you really need in order to create an atmosphere where you can be creative is an environment where we say hello to each other like this. So if you would, I'd love if you could help me out. Do this again. So this is one thing, and then the oscillation. So now if you could go back and forth on your seats like this, you're going to feel really, really, really stupid doing this. Yeah, there you go. You guys look wonderful. Because this is what you look like when you're then trying to be creative. This is me, I'm jumping into the water, I'm stark naked, and that's what you feel like when you're being creative. You're naked, you're scared, and you just hope people around you are standing like this and are going to love you. So thank you guys, thank you very much. Thank you.